Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are entering day 134 of the ongoing war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And we understand now that the tempo of operations by Russian forces may be slowing just a bit to allow for the reconstitution of some of these fighting units that have been deployed now for well over, obviously, 100 days in contact with Ukrainian forces. So is the fighting completely subsiding? No, it is not. The Russians are continuing operations, although there are a variety of reports that indicate things may be slowing down, at least in the very, very near term. It would appear that obviously Russia still has a number of military objectives that it wishes to complete. And again, we are going to cover that process as it continues through the war. But what I wanted to do today is have a look at the why behind the EU, the European Union, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the Western attention to what is happening right now in Ukraine and around Ukraine in terms of its relation with Russia. Is it simply a altruistic mentality that the West currently has in terms of what is happening? Well, if that was the case, I would have to say that there are much greater and horrific issues going on right now within the confines of the planet, especially if you look at what's happening in the Tigray region, where the entire region is, for all intents and purposes, being starved to death by two despotic states, Eritrea and the regime of Abiy Ahmed in the capital, Addis Ababa, his power base. So why not the call for arms against Eritrea and the Abiy Ahmed regime? Well, you don't hear that. And in fact, the World Bank is handing over hundreds of millions of dollars to Abiy Ahmed to continue to prop up his power base. Well, the real answer behind what is going on in Ukraine, and I'll try to explain my theory on this. And if we go back in history and we look at the run up to World War II, the Germans were very much focused on acquiring living space. We have heard Adolf Hitler talk about Lebensraum on many occasions. And Hitler was not looking at the East in terms of a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. He was looking quite possibly 100, 200 years into the future as he set his eyes upon Belarusia, Ukraine, and that was eventually the eastern expanse of the Germanic living space. Fast forward to present day, that situation in terms of European living space has not changed. That theory is still very much omnipresent and quite possibly is being exacerbated because of some of these liberal immigration policies by the European Union. And what I wanted to do now is just try to give you, the viewer, a good picture of kind of what the European Union is dealing with in terms of its expanding population base and the lack of Lebensraum, living space. And first, if we look at the Netherlands, Holland, in the northwest quadrant to the northwest of Germany. So Netherlands is about the size of the U.S. state of Maryland, for all you U.S. listeners. And the population of the Netherlands, again, just about the size of Maryland, maybe a little bit bigger, has 16 to 17 million people. Maryland has a population of about 6 million people. So if you were to take, and we're going to cruise over here to the United States, okay, and if we were to take Maryland, and then we were to take the entire population of Virginia and the entire population of Delaware, and to move it into the state of Maryland, that is what you would have to do to get to the current population of the Netherlands, Holland. And that is simply unsustainable. And lords know what it's going to look like as we head into the next century. It's just going to become, again, unsustainable. Germany, for instance. Germany is about the size of the U.S. state of Montana. And before I tell you the population of Germany, I'll just kind of tell you what would have to happen in terms of the movement of U.S. population centers into Montana to get to the population of Germany. So here's Montana, again, roughly the size of Germany. In order for Montana to have the same population as Germany, you would have to take the entire population of California, but wait, it gets better, and the entire population of Texas, and move both those states' entire population into Montana just to get to the current population levels of Germany. If we go back over to Holland, we're seeing new environmental rules being put into effect. In fact, the police forces of Netherlands are now using kinetic force against protesting farmers in the Netherlands over some of these radical environmental rules that are coming to effect. And really, these rules are designed to intentionally close down these family farms. And what does that do? Well, that is going to give the Netherlands, Holland, some short-term Lebensraum, living space. And then we have to look at Ukraine. So again, why the Ukraine? Well, it's the breadbasket of Europe. It has a much smaller population than Germany, about 40 million people, so half the size. Again, it's considered the breadbasket of Europe in many cases, and as the Europeans run out of living space and shut down its internal ability to produce food, it is going to need the ability to get food. And where are they going to get food? And where are they going to be able to have the ability to do transfers of populations? You guessed it, Ukraine. So that is why the EU, the Western states, are very, very interested in gaining a foothold and or complete dominance over Ukraine. And yes, if the Ukraine becomes part of the EU, the Ukrainians are going to have to do things that they are probably not aware that they are going to have to do. Much like the British. And the British vacated the EU. Remember the big Brexit? Well, there you go. But I guess my point being is that even though we observed this heinous regime that attempted to gain power all over Europe and expand east, meaning the National German Socialist Workers' Party, the Nazis, National Socialist German Workers' Party, in its eastern expansionism, while again obviously heinous, there was a reason behind what they were trying to do. And unfortunately, it was a valid reason. Not during that exact period of time, and probably not during this period of time, but again, as we see these population centers, these population bases in these Western European countries continue to expand, And some of this unbridled immigration that is occurring too is going to continue to exacerbate this and quicken this. Well, they are going to have no choice but to seek other areas to live in, and more importantly, grow food as they cancel their internal farming operations inside their own countries, which in fact they are doing. If I pull up just a really quick a news search on the Netherlands and just type in Netherlands and farmers, what do you get here? Let's see. Well, you get here top stories. Dutch farmers block food distribution centers over new environmental rules. But you don't hear that on CNN, do you? Of course you don't. Politico. Police fire on Dutch farmers protesting environmental rules. Dutch farmers organize mass protest in face of farm closures. Dutch farmers block entrances to supermarket warehouses. And again, it just goes on. And there is a reason why they are protesting. Because their livelihoods are about to end. And it is paramount for Holland, for the Netherlands, to acquire new sources of food, and more importantly, ultimately, Lebensraum, living space. And that connects directly to what we are now seeing in Ukraine. And take it for what it's worth, but ultimately, it is what it is. It's the area in Europe that is closest to Western Europe that could facilitate population expansion, and more importantly, continuing to feed the EU as well. But going back into the ongoing conflict, obviously the fighting continues. We have reports that the Russians are creating a new military unit that will be assigned to the Western Military District. It will be in addition to some of the larger military units that we currently see in the Western Military District, such as the 1st Guards Tank Army. So apparently they are now, the Russians, are creating the 3rd Corps, which right now is in development and training. It's estimated right now when it reaches initial operating capacity and capability, it will be roughly 15,000 personnel, and really be designed as a mobile armored unit. And we believe that that many of these soldiers that are being deployed into this new unit quite possibly are coming from areas such as the separatist areas in eastern Ukraine that are joining these new military units that the Russians are creating. And again, right now it does appear that the Russians are preparing for further operations, quite possibly much larger operations. And it's what's interesting as well. We continue to hear reports that the Ukrainians may be preparing for a counteroffensive, specifically in the area between Kherson and Zaporizhia. Where this will come and how this will look, really unsure at this point. I don't see how it is possible. At this point, we could see large-scale offensive operations by the Ukrainians, considering how the Ukrainian military has been degraded over the last 130-plus days. It's going to be very, very difficult for the Ukrainians. When I mean when we keep hearing a large counteroffensive, we think a multi-brigade counteroffensive. And I think at this point, just in terms of the challenges in which the Ukrainians are having in terms of providing fuel, ammunition, and more importantly now, adequately trained personnel. So we could rapidly start to see a different Ukrainian military than the fairly well-trained force that we saw at the beginning stages of the conflict. Now, obviously, some of these Ukrainian units are going to gain additional experience through contact with the enemy. But at the same time, as the Ukrainians continue to mobilize and push some of these territorial forces into combat, a lot of them have seen maybe a week to 2 weeks worth of training. And you compound that with the supply issue, the prospect of these forces launching successful counter operations against the Russians right now seems a little far-fetched. Now, could be proven wrong, and they could launch something, possibly. But right now, I just can't see that occurring with what's happening on the ground right now. But we're going to continue to watch very, very closely the front lines running from Sloviansk to Bakhmut. In addition, we are also going to continue to watch very closely the possibility that the Russians could be preparing for another large-scale operation in another locale other than the eastern Donbass. But that does it for today. I hope you enjoyed our video, and then please, if you like, hit the subscribe button. You can also support the channel on Patreon as well. But that's all we have for today. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk again soon. Have a good day.